What if the biggest betrayal in hip-hop didn't happen in a recording studio but in a quiet hotel room no one was ever supposed to know about? Just when fans thought the situation between Remy Ma, Papoose, and Fat Joe couldn't get any messier, new footage has surfaced, this time from an old hotel security camera in Miami. What the footage shows, and how it surfaced, has people questioning everything they thought they knew about these three in the video. A hallway camera catches two familiar figures, sneaking past the hotel lobby at exactly 2:17 a.m. The hotel records show a check-in under the name Joseph Cartagena, better known as Fat Joe, right beside his name, Reminisce Mackey, better known to fans as Remy Ma. That alone had people asking questions, but what really shocked everyone is where the footage came from. It wasn't leaked by a hacker or dug up by the media, it was reportedly discovered by Papoose himself. Word is, Papoose came across the video while cleaning up an old iPad that Remy had used years ago, supposedly just for writing music. But tucked away in those files was something he never expected to see. Surveillance footage from a Miami hotel, showing Fat Joe and Remy entering alone in the middle of the night and not leaving until the next morning. The times, April 3, 2011. The location, the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, and the file name, 7th floor Miami. This immediately raised more questions than answers. Was this some old secret relationship? Did it happen before Remy married Papoose or after? And why had this stayed hidden for so long, with not a single word from anyone involved? To understand how we got here, we have to go back. Remy Ma and Fat Joe have a long history. They came up together during the Bronx's gritty hip-hop era, and were both part of Terror Squad to the public. But according to someone who used to be around them often, that sibling story was more for the cameras than it was reality. Remy wasn't just any rapper. She was Big Pun's hand-picked protege after Pun died in 2000. Fat Joe stepped in to help guide Remy's career. He gave her access to studios, connections, and, according to some, something more personal than just music. Remembered seeing Joe never leaving Remy's side? He even said, "I thought they were together the way he acted." At that time, Remy was already dating someone else. Not Papoose, but still, not single. And yet, people around her said her bond with Joe was unshakable. It wasn't just professional, and it wasn't just friendly. By 2004, Lean Back had taken over the charts. Fat Joe and Remy Ma were everywhere. But behind the scenes there were rumors, jealousy, secrecy, and hours-long studio sessions that people said didn't always end with music. Multiple people who used to work with Terror Squad now claim that the chemistry between Joe and Remy wasn't just creative, it was personal. One studio engineer even remembered seeing them come out of recording sessions holding hands, only to quickly act casual when others walked in. Nobody said anything though. Fat Joe was in charge, and Remy, despite all the whispers, never stepped out of line, at least not publicly. Then in 2007, everything shifted. Papoose showed up, stood by her side, and even married her while she was locked up. But while the cameras followed him around the courthouse, something else was happening in the background, something the media didn't catch. Fat Joe, according to leaked visitor logs from Rikers Island, was also visiting her quietly. Privately, no press. Just his name signed in under different aliases. Those logs show Joe visiting at least 5 times between 2008 and 2009, all at moments that matched up with major developments in Remy's life behind bars. One prison staff member remembered Joe's visits, said he wasn't loud or flashy, just serious, like he needed to talk about something important. And these weren't short pop-ins either, each visit lasted a while. Meanwhile, Papoose was writing love letters, giving interviews, defending Remy's name like it was his mission. But these secret visits from Joe make some wonder, was there more going on in that prison than anyone let on? After Remy was released, she did an interview where a host asked her who she missed most while she was away. She didn't name names. She just said, "Some people surprised me with how much they cared," and gave a look that said more than her words ever could. The interviewer moved on quickly, and the moment was forgotten until now. Fast forward to today. Papoose is cleaning out old devices and finds the iPad. It's filled with music files, lyrics, journal stuff Remy worked on during early parole. But hidden in there was a video that had never been deleted. That Miami hallway clip, Joe and Remy alone, no glam team, no excuses. A tech expert who reviewed the file confirmed it wasn't fake. The metadata checked out. It was recorded by a hotel camera and showed exactly what the file name said. Both of them entering the same hotel hallway late at night and not coming out until daylight. After seeing it, sources say Papoose didn't immediately confront Remy. He was shaken, quiet, processing instead. He reached out to someone else, someone who might have answers he wasn't ready to get from her yet. The name of that person hasn't been revealed, but whoever it is, they might hold the final piece of the puzzle. And that's just the beginning. What's coming next in this story isn't just shocking, it could destroy everything you thought you knew about the bond between Remy Ma and Fat Joe. When Papoose watched that hotel hallway footage, the one showing Remy walking into a Miami suite just behind Joe, it didn't just sting, it knocked the air right out of him. This was the same man who stood by her during her trial, during her prison sentence, and through the public humiliation. Now he was seeing a quiet, hidden moment that looked like more than just friendship. But he didn't lose his temper. That's not his way. Papoose is a thinker. He processes things. He uses words, not violence. And so, rather than confront her right away, he started gathering answers on his own. According to people close to the situation, Pap didn't say a word to Remy at first. He made calls, quiet ones, to people who were there during those crucial years: tour managers, engineers, assistants. And then he called someone who used to be very close to Remy and Joe during the early Terror Squad era, Remy's old stylist now. We're not naming her for safety reasons, but what she told Papoose reportedly changed everything. She didn't hold back. According to a person who overheard the call, she said Joe was never just her label boss, he was obsessed. She claimed to have seen the way he looked at Remy, how protective he was, how he'd cancel entire recording sessions if Remy wasn't around. She even said being near her made Joe feel alive again. But according to her, Joe and Remy were spotted alone on a private yacht. Long after everyone else had called it a night, Papoose decided to go directly to Fat Joe, privately. No drama, no scenes, just to men who had known each other for years. And when Papoose brought up the hotel clip, Joe didn't act shocked. He didn't try to deny it. He didn't even blink. All he said was, "It ain't what you think, Pap, but you don't want to go down that road." Now, what kind of answer is that? That's like saying, "Yeah, something happened, but trust me, don't ask questions." It didn't ease Papoose's mind, it made things worse. That's when he went into full investigation mode. He went through old emails, DMS, even burner accounts. An email from 2011 sent to a private Gmail account linked to Remy's old nickname. The message said Miami was different. "You know I'd do anything for YOUJ. No full name, no Fat Joe. Signature, just the letter J." But here's the thing, when they checked the email's metadata, it traced back to an IP address in the Bronx, registered to a studio leased by Terror Squad Entertainment. So really, how much more proof do you need? Then the Bronx started buzzing. Not blogs, not tabloids, the streets. When people in the Bronx start whispering, it means something big is brewing. An underground podcast posted a blind item describing a platinum-selling NYC rapper whose loyalty was tested by a woman who had too many men around her. That's not exactly hard to decode. Fans jumped in quickly. Once a now-deleted tweet from someone claiming to be close to the situation mentioned the footage, Twitter exploded. Reddit threads lit up with screenshots and theories. Some wondered if Papoose had moved out. Technically, he hadn't left their home, but sources say he did move into the guest house for a while, just to process it all, and still nothing from Remy. No statements, no interviews, just her regular posts, selfies, studio shots, motivational quotes like "real love stands the test of time." Meanwhile, Fat Joe, silent, not even a cryptic Instagram live. If you know Joe, you know he always has something to say, but now nothing. That's when you know it's serious. Then a fan went digging and found something wild, an old DVD from a Terror Squad behind-the-scenes interview in 2005. It was grainy and low quality, but the message was clear. Joe sat next to Remy and said, "I'll ride for her till the wheels fall off. That's my heart." Back then, people saw it as brotherly love, but now, that line hits totally different. Papoose, always known for being level-headed and private, was clearly hurting in silence, and that silence was starting to speak volumes. According to someone very close to the situation, Papoose reached out to an old journalist who had covered Remy's case years ago. He didn't ask for publicity. He didn't want a headline. He wanted clarity. He reportedly asked, "If I send you something, do you think the world's ready for it?" What he might have been referring to wasn't just the hallway footage. It was something deeper, something more revealing. Because, apparently, the clip Papoose found on the iPad wasn't the full story. There was another file, a second part, a video labeled Room 714_full. The file that, according to insiders, shattered Papoose in a way nothing else had. This wasn't a video that screamed for attention. There was no yelling, no scandalous behavior captured in chaos. It was quiet. But that's what made it worse. The silence. The footage reportedly begins 4 minutes after Remy and Joe enter the hotel room. No loud music, no crowd, just a faint hallway light seeping under the door. A room service tray sitting untouched on the table and two familiar voices speaking low, clears and what Joe says next? Well, you'll hear about that in the next section. When Joe's voice cut through the silence with, "You know what this is?" and Remy quietly replied, "It was never supposed to go this far." Everything shifted. 10 words. That's all. It took until then. There had been room for doubt. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe just business. But those words erased all gray areas. This wasn't a slip-up. It was a long-kept secret. Something real. Something intentional. And that's reportedly the moment Papoose stood up, turned off the iPad, and walked out of the room without saying a word. He didn't return for hours. But by then, the damage was already spreading. Somehow, someone had already leaked that Papoose had seen the footage. Nobody knows who let it out, but all it took were 5 simple words online, and suddenly the internet caught fire. Hip-hop blogs, gossip pages, and radio stations were all hinting at something big. They didn't say names, but everyone knew who they were talking about. It was vague, but specific enough that fans didn't need much help connecting the dots. Fat Joe's team moved fast. Clips were being pulled offline before they even reached 1,000 views. Platforms were being warned. Takedown notices were sent. PR people were working overtime to stop the spread. But it was too late. The story was already out. Remy's social media changed almost instantly. The usual posts about black love, studio sessions, and motivational captions disappeared. She deleted her last story and replaced it with just one word. Sorry. No explanation, no context, just that. On the other hand, Papoose hadn't posted anything new, but his last post suddenly took on a different meaning. It read, "Loyalty is only real when it's tested." No tags, no locations, and no sign of Remy anywhere on the page. Fans went digging. They pulled up an old interview clip from 2005 where Joe sat beside Remy, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "I'll ride for her till the wheels fall off. That's my heart." Back then, it came off as sweet, but now, in the middle of all this, it felt more like a breadcrumb we all missed. Then another clip started making rounds, this time from an old podcast almost 10 years ago. Fat Joe had been drinking, laughing with the hosts. When he said, "If Remy ever left Pap, she'd come home where she belongs." The crowd had laughed, thinking it was a joke. But looking back, maybe it wasn't single quotes T. Then came the most shocking twist yet. According to a producer who's remained anonymous, that footage, the one on the iPad, it wasn't the only copy. Papoose had backed it up. And someone again, no names, sent that backup to a private Dropbox linked to a well-known documentary production house. Word on the street is that a 4-part docuseries is already in development. Working title, Remy and Joe, The Real Story. This isn't just internet gossip anymore. It's turning into something permanent. Streaming platforms are now involved. Industry insiders are panicking. A major beauty brand that was reportedly negotiating a haircare deal with Remy quietly pulled back. A PR agency stepped away from Fat Joe's upcoming tour promo. Behind closed doors, lawyers are being consulted, NDAs are being handed out, and people who once stood by these artists are suddenly staying silent, because now, this isn't just about cheating, it's about legacy. Remy Ma wasn't just a rapper, she was the comeback story.